family with a man that is HIV negative, and now having a son who's also HIV negative, and how we deal with life now. I was always the person that say, oh, those are those people with AIDS, like, oh, it's like it can't happen to me. I never knew what AIDS was. I never even knew what HIV was. I just knew that I couldn't have it because I was Lolisa. So when the doctor did tell me over the phone that my test did come back HIV positive, it was unbelievable. Because now it's like, okay, it's not those people. Like, I was one of those people. And now, as I know everything there is to know about HIV, I'm here to say, like, it's not those people. It's us people. Like, we are those people. And everyone needs to be more involved in HIV. One of the main reasons I started to educate was because I found out that one of the main age groups to get infected were ages 13 through 24. And being 13 through 24, at the time I was 17, so that was everyone in my circle. That was my cousins, that was my friends, that was my little brothers. And I just knew that if they weren't talking about it, then neither was I, because none of us were talking about it, and we all talked together about everything. So I knew that if we didn't know anything about it, it was time to change that, because I didn't want them too to go through the same thing that I was going through. My goals for the future are to just keep inspiring people. I never get tired of talking about HIV. It never gets old to me. I feel like if I get tired, more people will get infected and die if they're not educated about it. I didn't have someone to come talk to me about HIV when I first found out that I had it. So I'll always aim to be that face that I needed when I first found out 7 years ago. So I'll never get tired of being that face for anyone else, any young girl or young boy or older person that needs someone to talk to that knows about HIV and that can actually relate to what they have gone through.
Welcome back to Matters of the Heart. I'm Kirk Johnson, Mr. Matters, and today, my life, my love. She's HIV positive. He's HIV negative. They are in love and they are committed to each other and to a love for a lifetime. What an amazing story, true story of Lolisa and Daryl. Lolisa, who, as I mentioned before, she's an activist. She is an HIV/AIDS educator, really a health educator. She's also the author of a brand new book. I'm not sure what angle the camera is at. I'm going to let you take a quick look at that. Of course, if you go to the homepage of the show, myheartmatters.com, there's a young lady who interviewed Lolisa, and she talks about her book. She talks about how you can find her book and how you can get a copy of it. It's a self-published book. And for those of us who have aspirations to write, you have a story, find out, we're going to find out from Lolisa the process that she used, because we all have a story. And I would dare to say that we need to put it to paper. And you'll find out a little bit more about that. I'm also going to in a moment share some of your posts. I mean, I've gotten like quite a bit of posts over a number of sites, mattersoftheheartlive.com, NASA Cheaters, Let's Talk Relationship groups, a number of other places that we've posted. And as much as time allows, I will go to those varying Facebook presence and talk about them. Just before I introduce you to my next guest, let's go to the phone line. Remember, the number is 326-JAMS. Let's go to line. Matters of the Heart, welcome to the show.
And a special good afternoon to your special guest.
Well, thank you very much. They have stepped away, but they are in studio, Lolisa and Daryl, so they can hear you. And I'm about to introduce Keith, who is also in studio with us. But thank you for calling.
I would like to say that the relationship they do have is the essence of humanity and Christianity.
Now, you know what? And I'm identifying with you in so many ways. What do you say to, for example, the Facebook post that said, Kirk, this doesn't make any sense for a person to have that kind of relationship? Is that person naive?
No, if you actually listen to the speaking, you heard even your female guest mention that in a relationship, to be healthy, you need to let your partner know everything. And yes. As an educator also, and sharing and informing and steering the others, this is very persons who are healthy are doing craziness.
That indeed. So would you date somebody who is HIV positive?
if I was available.
Ah.
But
Let me ask you this, because there are varying circumstances. What if your wife, because I gather that means your availability has either to do with you being married or
yes,
involved.
I'm married.
You're married. Okay. What if your wife, God forbid, one would say, she had to have a transfusion, and she contracted HIV? Would it make any difference on your relationship and your outlook on your relationship?
No, it ought not to, because you marry for better or for worse.
Certainly.
That's why I mentioned it's the essence of humanity and Christianity, that it doesn't matter the color, the skin, the sores, the boils. It's what's inside.
That indeed.
It's a substance.
That indeed. And you mentioned life's changes, life's experiences, and understanding that where our attitude is concerning it makes a big factor in what we do. Thank you so much for calling, sir.
You're welcome.
My
Bye-bye.
pleasure. Of course, remember to be a part of the show. Your platforms, 434-2958 by text. Also 466-4751. I've been reminded, Kirk, remind folks how to BBM you more often. Thank you, BTC. And also, you can go to Facebook, Kirk Johnson Worldwide, or Matters of the Heart Live, rather Matters of the Heart, or Kirk Johnson Worldwide to post your comments. Very quickly, before I introduce my next guest, I'll go to Facebook, and I start with Saran, who posted a response to our posting, My Life, My Love. She's HIV positive, and he's HIV negative. They're in love and plan to be married soon. And her comment was, that's deep right there. Takes a big, heavy soul to handle this. Dion said, wow, that's unbelievable. That's like unheard of. Shanta wrote, well, she said, that's right. There is suicide. That's what it really is her thoughts. Super Miko said, that's really hard to deal with. I'm going to keep it 100%. Could not deal with that. We all need love, but that's too deep. Ride or die love. And that's not what Miko thinks. Jonathan said, say what? Wow. Saran then responded to Shanta. She said, it is possible to have a relationship with someone that is HIV and not get it. As a matter of fact, plenty of people today are sleeping with HIV positive people right now. That's the whole point of practicing safe sex. People have it. And they're being kissed and bathed with, sharing forks, cups, all those other things, because the other person doesn't know. I think it's so brave for her to be upfront, because that is the huge issue in society. Positive people who are not telling their partners and giving them the option to choose, possibly based on the stigma of being infected. And she, in fact, posted a link that would help people to understand more. And there are many other posts to the site, and as time allows, we'll do that. But let's connect first with Keith Kemp. He is the president of YAPL, an organization that focuses on young people. But then also, he's been a health educator for a number of years. You know the name. You know his work in HIV, AIDS, awareness, and varying learning opportunities over a number of years. So he's no newcomer to conversation, and certainly a good person to talk with. Keith, welcome to Matters of the Heart.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. First of all, let me just begin by giving a special thanks to your guests for taking this opportunity to disclose their HIV status. This is what we need more in the fight against HIV. We need more young persons to connect the face of HIV. And when we see the young lady here, we see her face, she does not look HIV positive. And this is one of the messages we've been trying to send to young people throughout the country, that HIV doesn't have a face, and you can't tell by looking at a person the HIV status. As a matter of fact, depending on how strong one's immune system is, a person can live up to 10 years with HIV and show no signs and symptoms of being infected, but can infect other persons during sexual activity. And so with this testimony here today, I hope it brings a greater reality to young persons and to people on the whole, as it relates to the whole process of being responsible in your sexual behavior. That's what it is. We need to continue to educate persons on the importance of practicing safe sex, the importance of understanding that everyone is guilty until you can prove their innocence. And the only way to prove innocence as it relates to HIV is to get tested for HIV. And that's a fear that most people need to get over with. If you have been sexually active, you had sexual intercourse without using protection, you don't know your HIV status. You assume that you're HIV negative because you're not sick or you don't feel sick. But the thing is, if you have a strong immune system, like I said earlier, you can go another 10 years and be real good, or another 5 or another 3 years. And so this is something that we need to continue to talk to people about. We need persons to understand that, stop judging books by its cover. HIV, the whole theme for HIV this year is getting to zero. And how do we get to zero as relates to HIV? We need to put more prevention, education campaigns together, outlining the person's, 1, HIV doesn't have a face, 2, the importance of safer self practices, and 3, understanding in order to break the barrier of stigma and discrimination and to have more persons disclose their HIV status, we need persons to stop the stigmatizing and discriminating against persons who are HIV positive, because we don't know how they got HIV. We wasn't there when it happened. The second thing is, I always say to people, I don't care if you won, and I don't care if you're 65. HIV can happen to people who are 65, 75, 85 years old. And so until you die, you ain't passing nothing yet. So never make the assumption that this thing will happen to you, because the very same thing that you say may not happen to you is the possibility that you could be 75 years old and have contracted HIV, and you're sitting there wondering, wow, how did this happen to me? And so we need to break the barrier of stigma and discrimination to get more persons like Lolita, correct? Lolisa, to get more persons like Lolisa to come out and talk about their whole experience of living with and being affected by HIV in order to get to zero and break the whole barrier, stigma, and discrimination, and simply live and let live.
Keith, there are so many salient points that you made in the few minutes that you've spoken thus far. One, that it doesn't make a difference your age. It doesn't make a difference your social background and things of the sort. Anybody can contract HIV. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, for those who have contracted HIV, there is the opportunity, as Lolisa shows us very aptly, that you can still have a full life. Now, we're going at the beginning of the process, and we say, first of all, we don't know how a person may have gotten it. Mm-hmm. Lolisa was born with it. Mm-hmm. But every person has a story. I know somebody who contracted it through transfusion. Mm-hmm. And there are so many possibilities. But tell us about, how can one contract HIV?
Well, first of all, I want to say this. The main mode of transmission in our country today is through unprotected sexual intercourse. We're talking about vaginal sexual intercourse. Okay, and heterosexuals are the persons who are driving the epidemic. When we talk about the transmission of HIV, HIV is transmitted to three main ways. Number one, through unprotected sexual intercourse. When we talk about unprotected sexual intercourse, we talk about sex without using condoms. HIV is spread through unprotected sexual intercourse. That's anal sex, vaginal sex, and oral sex. And most people don't believe oral sex is sex based on believe that oral sex is sex, but oral sex is sex based on the fact that you are exchanging sexual body fluids like semen and vaginal fluid that contains a very high concentration of HIV. And once these fluids enter your blood system, infection can take place. The second way we talk about transmission of HIV is through unsterilized needles and syringes, and that can happen a few ways. One, if two drug users are sharing needles and one is HIV positive and he passes the needle on to someone else who's HIV negative, that fresh HIV blood is still in there, and the person goes to inject the drugs into their system. They'll also inject the blood that contains HIV. You talked earlier about blood transfusion, and I want to say, first of all, state that yes, you could contract HIV through blood transfusion. But I also want to make the public, rest the public's nerve, that here in the Bahamas, at our blood bank, all of our bloods are tested for HIV, and if there's any abnormality with those bloods is disregarded. And so you do not have to worry about getting blood transfusion through our public healthcare system. And the screening process is very tedious. But we want to say, put a plug in for the blood bank, that we need more persons to go in and give blood, because if we do have a state of emergency and we do run out of blood, we don't want that to happen. But we want persons to continue to give blood. The last thing I want to talk about when we talk about the transmission of HIV is through mother to child transmission, and the mother can pass HIV